Welcome everyone to the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and yep, it is that time. And what time is it? And I shouldn't have done that. It shouldn't have opened with a morphin time joke. But that's what time it is. I already
morphin time.
I already regret saying that as soon as that came out of my mouth. But yes, John and Seamus are here, and we were just talking before we started the podcast. I wasn't sure if I was going to do one for this movie. Honestly, this is a preview review of, as you guessed it, the new Power Rangers movie. It is finally here. It's finally coming out. As I record this, it is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2017. The movie's a few days away from coming out, but yeah, I mean, this thing is, we've been hearing about it for a while. It's finally here, and it's one of those things. As soon as I heard that it was going to happen, I've just been fascinated by it. You probably, some of you may have heard the podcast that Seamus and I did a few months ago about the original pilot episode of the original show. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it, because we had a lot of fun doing it, and I think you'll have a really good laugh, where we kind of broke down the original pilot. But yeah, John and Seamus are both here. What's up, guys?
Triceratops. Is that right?
That's not what we're doing right
Saber-tooth tiger.
No, we're not calling giant robots right now. Sorry.
All right.
Oh,
What's up, guys?
Not much. This is one of those things. Like I said, I was debating. I'm like, should we? But like, I gotta tell you, like, looking at the trailers and everything, like, this looks like it might be decent.
I actually am really looking forward to this one. From what I've heard about it so far, I mean, it sounds like it's exactly what it's supposed to be, as far as like just a Power Rangers movie with a budget, pretty much. And that sounds sounds perfect.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Lionsgate is spending the money to do this. They've got the effects look pretty good from what I can tell in the trailers. They got a few big names in there. They got Bryan Cranston in there as Zordon. And we can go over the casting in a little bit, but yeah, it looks like they're really giving this a shot.
Yeah, I can tell you that. I mean, Jack, you know this. I've said it from the start. I've said all along, hey, we don't need a Power Rangers movie. It was like the last time we had a Power Rangers movie, it was like it made like $3 million or something. It's something ridiculously low, and it was so bad. It was gone a long time ago, and I said, like, this is kind of silly to make it. And then, the trailers come out, and I've said each time, I'm like, whoa, like, well, I mean, that's kind of crazy. This trailer actually looked pretty good, and then the next trailer comes out, and I have to give it credit, like, I can't say anything about the movie yet, but as far as the trailers and the marketing, they've done a good job, and for somebody like me, who's kind of like didn't really want to look at it, it's like, whoa, this seems like it's pretty interesting. They've kind of made it a little bit like Chronicle, but then it seems like they went back to like something a little bit more faithful to the original stuff, and I think that's pretty cool that they did that.
I mean, it almost looks like sort of like Chronicle meets The Breakfast Club, almost.
That's what I keep hearing about it. Yeah.
And which isn't a bad way to go about it. I mean, honestly, in the original show, like, the kids in the show were all really good friends, and they all knew each other beforehand. This one, it looks like, and they're going with at least the names of the original characters in the original show, but like trying to say that maybe they don't all hang out, maybe they're just kind of brought together randomly. So, which I think makes for an interesting dynamic, I'm sure.
Do they all go to the same high school?
Yes, apparently. Little bit of background. If you guys haven't heard the podcast that Seamus and I did, and I mean, for those,
I meant like for this movie,
right? No. For this movie, it appears that they do. A little background on Power Rangers. Obviously, the show was out in '93, which, I mean, it has its roots in Super Sentai, in Japanese TV.
Yes, I actually know that one.
Yeah, which has been around since the '70s. So, but when this came out in '93, it just ended up being such a huge hit. I mean, for a while, it was like the biggest thing going. And obviously, having been a little kid back then, I was really into it for the first season, or first 2 seasons, I should say.
I like the Pink Ranger. Yes. She's she let
Kimberly. Yeah. Kimberly definitely reinforced the fact that I do like girls. So I found that out about myself.
Me too.
So that's important. But and obviously Seamus being a little bit younger than us, you weren't really that familiar with the original show, but you saw the pilot with me, and we're had an immediate impression, I guess is.
I could definitely see the appeal. Like I said, I honestly, it was cheesy, it was campy, but if I were 6 years old and watching that for the first time, I would have loved it. Like it would have been the best thing ever. I would have been kicking and punching around and everything like that, and screaming morphin time all over the house, causing my parents to get headaches and everything. It would have been great. But like,
come on, and you wanted one of those suits, one of those helmets.
Well, yeah, who didn't? I want one now, but like,
and I said this before, but like, they were cool toys when they came out. They really were, and I've always thought this about the Power Rangers, and obviously the original show, it was what it was. But I had been thinking for a while. I'm like, you know what? They could do this. I think the concept itself is strong. Having having kids with superpowers and the idea of there being a team of them, and like, I think that is kind of cool. I think you could do something with that. The problem is there's a lot of stuff from the original series that is just inherently ridiculous, and because people have such strong nostalgia about it, I'm thinking like, okay, well, they want to be a little bit faithful to the original, but at the same time, it's like, how faithful do you really want to be, though? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of it. A lot of it was just really ridiculous, and I'm not sure yet how this is going to translate.
I wouldn't think you'd want to be. I don't think you'd want to be too concerned about being so faithful to the original stuff, because let's face it, in the general audience, that's a very minute number of people that actually care about the original Power Rangers. And that's not disrespecting the people who do care about it. I'm just saying it as far as like the general audience, that's just a small number. Even comic books, movies, that's still a small amount of people that care about like the actual comic stuff. So people
remember the name, and they remember that they were giant robots, and that they remember that like different like the different colors. That's about all they really needed to nail for this movie, I think.
Definitely.
That's my opinion. But
I agree with that. I mean, weirdly enough, and believe it or not, there is a big fan base of people out there who grew up with it, who are like hardcore into it.
Absolutely.
I mean, they are out there, which
they're out there for sure. Yeah,
they're like.
I think one of their names is Jack O'Connor, I believe.
No, not really. Not as much as you think. I mean, look, I'll be perfectly honest with you. This show is great. Has given me hours of entertainment in my life, both ironically and unironically as a kid.
Right.
But as an adult, I think it's hilarious.
Talking to you a little bit about it, though, it seems like it's not necessarily that you're like this giant fan where you want to dress up and all that stuff, but I feel like you do have such a huge interest in it, because especially because the original show is, as far as like dynamics of like what happened behind the scenes and what's going on.
It fascinates me for a couple reasons, and I've kind of touched upon this earlier in the podcast I did with Seamus, but it's like the fact that it was as huge as it was, and that it still has like a huge fan base, that fascinates me, because just because of like how they did it, and just how they managed to do it as cheaply as they did, and just it's mind-boggling.
Very cheap.
I actually really agree, because it, like, on paper, it really does not make sense. If you go to like a pitch meeting and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. This old Japanese show that they made 30 years ago, we're going to splice that together with some random teenage actors in a juice bar or so, well, wherever they're, I can't remember whether in a juice bar that's mixed with a gym, and we're gonna call it a new show. It doesn't sound like it should work, and it shouldn't, but it did.
And just the fact that they managed to do this, like, I mean, it was almost like its own self-contained studio. Like they didn't really pay the actors much of anything.
No,
which is how they were able to like switch them out almost every season.
Yeah.
Because they weren't union. I think to this day, the show still runs. You know,
Does it really?
That's the crazy. That is the crazy part. I do know that.
And just ways they've gotten around it. Disney actually bought it at one point, but then sold it back to Saban.
Yeah, that's right.
That's for real.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was on Disney XD for a while. Then they just kind of stopped.
Little bit of buyer's remorse there, like.
I mean, I guess, but that also says something about Haim Saban, the creator, or whatever. He was like, I mean, this dude was savvy enough to sell it to Disney and buy it back, and probably continue to make money on. Like that's this guy. I mean, he is the devil. This guy is the devil. I mean.
Oh man.
That says a lot, though, the fact that Disney let go of a property. Like,
yeah, oh yeah,
you don't hear about that. That's crazy. No. They pretty much know how to milk money out of anything, but they just didn't know what to do with Power Rangers, which is hilarious, I think.
And even if they don't like get any money off of it, they can shelve it for a while and then bring it back like years and years later, like. For them to just completely give up on it like that for a short amount of time, it's pretty crazy.
There are a couple reasons why it switches out from like every season to like a different theme and different cast and different, because the Sentai shows in Japan do that every season. Like every season or every 2 seasons, it's like a different show basically.
You see, that's where they like. Lost me because I actually watched the first season and I enjoyed it. I remember watching I remember seeing a little bit of that Super Sentai, the Japanese one, so it caught my interest and I was like, yeah, but then once you start changing out people and changing out costumes and it's like I just like, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. It's just a constant rotation of stuff, and supposedly each time it's more powerful than the other, and it didn't make any sense to me. So I feel like that kind of I feel like that's I don't know. I mean, for me, that was a big con. That kind of turned me off.
I mean, just the fact that they were able to crank out as much material as they did, even in that original incarnation, was just nuts. Like they would have new shows on like 5 days a week.
That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Like nobody does that anymore.
No.
Now, I don't know if I can't. I honestly can't. Just for the sake of, I can't remember if I asked this last, but the last time we talked about Power Rangers. But did the original Sentai show have like a sense of continuity? Did it have a story?
I mean, I think so. Like occasionally you'd have like episodes where it's like past teams would team up, and you'd have some crossover there.
Okay.
But for the most part, each season would be its own like self-contained thing, and so because it was harder and harder for them to like do that and keep the same cast around and keep the same suits and all that stuff, they had to. Then they eventually switched over to that, and also it had to do with the popularity decreasing and all that stuff. So
right, of course,
they had to keep it fresh and all that. But I mean, but there's a definite mythology to this whole thing, especially since it's been around as long as it has. I mean, part of that I'm like what is this all about? Like, there's got to be some pros to it. And again, people listening, like, I'm not trying to bash it completely. I'm saying that there are some redeeming, qualities to it, but everything, it's just one of those things. It fascinates me to no end.
There's something inherently just kind of, because I've seen this a lot with different things. Even since Power Rangers, just like the idea of just having this team of people that are kind of very similar, but also their own personalities and everything like that. Like it makes me think of, I don't know if you guys, this is probably the closest thing I came to when I when I was growing up to Power Rangers was playing with the Lego Bionicle sets, which was essentially like these different Lego robots and everything like that, and they were, think of basically Transformers meets Power Rangers meets just different, meets Samurai Jack type thing. I don't know exactly how to say it, but like they all were like different colors and everything like that, and just like the aspect of them being collectible and them being each having their own unique personalities. It's a very marketable idea. So it kind of does make sense in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that almost reminds me of like I've seen commercials for this. I guess that kids watch it now, but there's a show called like Ninjago.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very similar concept there too. Just all the different colors and everything like that, and all the different personalities, and they all have their own kind of own kind of story arc as well.
But I mean, I think to John's point, like what they said about them, like constantly switching out actors and characters and stuff like that. I kind of think that's one of the reasons why, at least in my opinion, that it hasn't necessarily aged as well or been able to like translate into different stuff as like say the Ninja Turtles have, for example.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that like and don't get me wrong, the Ninja Turtles are inherently silly as well, and are very much of the time.
Whoa! Watch your mouth.
Hey,
I'm just kidding.
But I
they're
think
giant turtles, yes.
But I mean, I think that like that particular franchise has been able to like adapt and have a little bit more character depth in a way that really Power Rangers hasn't yet. At least as far as I know. Again, we haven't seen the movie yet, so maybe they might prove us wrong on this. But
sorry, go ahead. Keep going. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just thinking, I'm like, if I would constantly think, I'm like, okay, if I was a writer and someone said, well, we have Power Rangers, we want to make a new sort of like grown-up version of the movie, how would you do it? And that's the thing I would kind of go back and forth on. I mean, because I'm not a writer, but if I was, I would think, I'm like, okay, well, you can definitely keep the same characters around because that original cast definitely had a chemistry there. And I will say that about the original show. Like, those particular characters reminded me a lot of like Saved by the Bell and stuff like that, and shows of that era where it's like you knew who each person was. Have you seen that meme? Away.
Have you seen that meme?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, like if Zordon landed in Bayside High.
In Bayside High. Yes. It was perfect.
Yeah, which is exactly right. I mean, I've always called the original show basically Saved by the Bell on steroids. That's basically what it is.
Right.
And now we're getting the Breakfast Club on steroids. It's awesome.
Right. So,
as far as this movie, just to touch back real quick on the whole like similarities and stuff like that, and for me, actually, why it kind of maybe caught my attention a little bit more, to be honest, is because I actually grew up watching Voltron, and I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
I know about Voltron.
But it's like it was that similar concept of like 5, I guess, teenagers or young adults, and they've got 5 different colors. But you know what? They were more like pilots in that they piloted a robot tigers, I guess you could say, or lions, or robot lions, and then they formed, and those lions formed together to make like one giant robot, and they fought off the universe, the monsters of the universe to protect the universe. So, anyways.
So that was basically like Power Rangers who stayed in their Zords, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I was like, oh, there's Power Ranger stuff. It kind of reminds me of that. And so since that's my childhood, I'm not gonna lie, I'm hoping this movie actually does like decently well, because it might encourage to do like a Voltron thing,
That's actually very true.
Yeah,
that would be fun to see.
I've heard they're developing like a new like Voltron Netflix series or something like that. I don't know if it's animated, but
it's animated.
I guess it is.
Yeah, I think it is animated.
But like the weird thing I found out when doing like research was like Super Sentai has been around since '75.
Right.
And they've been doing like a lot of the robot stuff. So in a way, they kind of predated Voltron.
Right.
Right.
Which is something I didn't know.
I didn't know that either.
But I mean,
that's kind of cool.
I think a good way in which this concept works is to almost make it like the Green Lantern Corps, where it's like you have Power Rangers all over the universe and different teams and almost make it like a military organization.
Yeah.
And just but like these kids on Earth kind of like discover it accidentally, and it's like make a plot of that be like, okay, they're not ready for this. They're not qualified to be part of this team. Like, how do they do it? But and make them, and like that's how I would write it. Be like, okay, how do they overcome this and eventually get to where they need to be?
Right.
And maybe, and from what I can tell from the plot summary, it seems like they, that these kids ended up discovering it accidentally, or. But they don't really say. I'm hoping that it's like there's some sort of explanation behind it, because
it looks just like the trailer looked just like the Chronicle trailer. I mean, where they literally fall into something that they a discovery.
Yeah. Which I'm totally fine with. But like I hope they don't like switch around and be like, "Oh, well this was your destiny to do it." And be like, "What? You knew the entire time?" Like I hope they don't try and pull that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. It's not like maybe they stumbled upon it. It would make more sense as a story for them to do that. But you don't want another Chosen One story. That's pretty much
right. I feel like that would be kind of a cop out.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of annoys. Even when I was growing up, I noticed that a lot of the shows, like a lot of the movies, or TV shows or anything like that I watched, all had that. I mean, obviously it's
the Star Wars effect, the Chosen One.
the hero's journey type thing. They all had that, but they all pretty much directly ripped it off. And even as growing up, I remember that bothering me. I was like, wait a minute, Lord of the Rings has it.
Yeah.
The Matrix has it.
Matrix,
Harry Potter, pretty much any modern young adult novel has it at this point. And it's it's kind of, there's got to be a different way to do it. There's got to be a better way to think up an interesting story besides always having the one person who was destined from the beginning of time type thing. So I think that
you weren't the chosen one, but you'll do.
That's actually a good idea.
I would almost rather that, because have Zordon be like, okay, all I could get is these kids. I've got to figure out how to train them to become Power Rangers so that they can do this. That makes for an interesting dynamic, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, in the military, sometimes you get squadrons where it's like the sergeants or whatever. That's not what they were looking for, but they have to train them anyways, right?
Right.
I mean,
and sometimes they turn into Captain America.
There you go.
Look at Steve Rogers. There you go. So let me go through the cast real quick, just to get an idea of who the actors and the characters are. You start with Dakra Montgomery. Dakra, he's an Australian kid. He's playing Jason, the Red Ranger, who's supposed to be the leader.
Oh, he's actually Jason?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
they're using the names from the original.
Are you serious?
The original cast. Yeah.
They're like Kimberly and Billy and Zach and all that.
Yeah.
Trini?
Trini, yeah.
Oh my god! Okay. Wow, they're actually.
Kimberly is such a '90s name, though. I don't know. Is that gonna work?
Are you serious? They're using the original.
Maybe they'll call her Kim.
Yeah, I mean, there's still people named Kimberly. I mean, Kim Kardashian. I mean,
that's true. They'll probably just call her Kim. That's not something to get hung up on.
I didn't know that name had a shelf life, but whatever.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me. That's just me. I just hear that name Kimberly, and I think.
Wow, I didn't realize they were using the original names of the first episodes.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I mean, again, the way they cast it, they kind of switched around some of the ethnicities of the characters, so it's it's not totally it's kind of using their names, but not really, or even they're definitely doing their own thing with it, but using the
they're their own personalities, different personalities. But I didn't realize they were gonna, use. That's pretty cool. There's a good nod right there. See, there's that's like a nod to the original stuff without having to copy exactly the original stuff.
Yeah. Naomi Scott is playing Kimberly, the Pink Ranger.
Is she hot?
I don't know if the math is right on that, so I can't say.
Yeah.
I don't know how old these actors are.
These are teenagers with attitude, so we want to be careful.
Or at least they're playing high schoolers.
We might want to edit that out. Let's edit that out.
Never mind. She's 23.
Exactly.
The math is okay.
Oh, we're good.
Okay, good. Okay.
So is she hot?
Keep it in.
Yeah, she's pretty cute. Yeah.
How old
is
she supposed to be in the movie though? Because then
they're supposed to be
matter.
they're supposed to be like 16, 17, I guess.
Okay.
But,
all right.
But no, Naomi Scott. She's a British actress. She's Indian. So again,
cool.
like I said, they're kind of playing around with the ethnicities a little bit.
Cool.
R.J. Seiler is Billy, the Blue Ranger, and he's African American. So it's sort of a different twist on that. Becky G, who's she's a singer. She's playing Trini, who I'm assuming her last name isn't Kwan because she's Latino.
Yeah. I didn't realize Trini could be a Latino name.
I mean, I guess. Why not?
Maybe it's short for Katrina or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ludi Lin is playing Zach, the Black Ranger, and he is Asian. I guess he's Chinese. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, so there you go. Like those who, those, like I said, the original 5 characters, sort of. They're kind of playing that, and I guess playing around with the personalities a little bit. They definitely seem like they're some misfits, some troubled kids, like they're in detention. So yeah, it should be interesting to see how they interpret those characters. I mean, it looks like Billy is still like sort of a science guy, very intellectual.
Right.
Kim definitely seems like a bit of a bad girl. I had heard that they were going to make Trini either like bisexual or a lesbian or something, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So I did see a Yahoo just the title of the report, and it says like first. I don't know about first, but it was like Power Rangers went for it with openly gay
character. Yeah.
Character. One of the girls. I don't know which one it was, but it was one of the girls.
Yeah,
so
it's a realistic reflection of current times, so that kind of actually makes sense.
It's not really a big deal, honestly. It's like I said, they're putting their own spins on these characters. So
exactly.
And ironically enough, David Yost, who's the original Billy, was David Yost, is
he was gay. And
the character wasn't, but he turned out to be, and that was a whole thing.
Yeah, wasn't there like some issues because he was gay? Like,
he was
he was
one of those guys, like, he was kind of in denial about it, but he was bullied about it pretty hard by some of the producers, and he ended up leaving the show. Really sad story, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's wrong what happened for sure, and it just for him, it was unfortunate for him because of the times, back then in that early 90s, like that's what happened, it wasn't what it is now, and I'm not saying that's right. I'm stating what it was.
Thankfully, he's doing all right, and he's lent his support for the movie and everything, and so he's doing okay. So Bill Hader of Saturday Night Live fame is going to be the voice of Alpha 5.
I'm excited about that.
That's perfect. I mean, the guy's a natural voice actor. I mean, he did BB-8. He's amazing.
He's like done a ton of voice acting. I mean, you know what? Like that's a nice way to get paid. Like you can sit at your house for like 5 hours a day, like 5 hours, 20 hours in a week, and you're good. You made like several $100,000s for that work.
Right.
If you get the big name VOs, yeah, that's right. That's they do pretty good work and everything like that. And the thing is, like, a lot of them don't like get as name famous, but still I've heard they make pretty good money.
Oh, they make a ton of money, especially like, I mean, Bill Hader gets paid a lot. He gets paid several $100,000. Oh yeah, well, I mean, you know,
he's an SNL alum, so I mean, he's.
Yeah. Plus the voiceover community, that's like a very competitive thing to get into because like you see like a lot of the same people who constantly get work from it. And Bill Hader's a talented guy. I'm sure he'll be funny. I'm guessing he's bringing the comic relief as Alpha.
Makes sense.
Bryan Cranston, who originally did a lot of voiceover work on the original show, is playing Zordon.
That is cool.
And I see that they
yeah, the original, Billy Cranston, the Blue Ranger, was named after Bryan Cranston.
Right.
So they even named the original character after him, and now he's like back in and playing Zordon, which is just really weird, and that he's back. But
I see that they took. Go ahead, Seamus.
No, go ahead. Well, I was just saying, have you guys seen? I think I mentioned this last time too. Have you guys seen Breaking Bad at all?
I have not.
I know I want to, but I know he's amazing in it.
Yeah, he is, and I just find it interesting that Billy Cranston was playing the Blue Ranger. That's an interesting coincidence. If people watch Breaking Bad, they know what they're talking about, just because the color blue has a pretty interesting significance.
Okay,
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah,
interesting.
They're not gonna have a Walter White Ranger or something. I don't know. So
no, I was gonna say as far as Cranston's Zordon from the trailers, it looks like they went the route of like it looks like the Man of Steel type of thing. You know, like
like the effect where it's like
yeah.
It's like he stuck his face in one of those old one of those toys that you put your hands in and everything.
Like
and who hasn't stuck their face in one?
Like he's not a floating head in a tube; he's a floating head on a moving screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I think it works.
It does work. It does work.
And apparently, his deal in this movie is that he was the original Red Ranger, and that he had lived millions of years ago before becoming part of the morphine grid, as he is in modern day. Which I'm assuming morphine grid is like sort of the source of their powers.
Okay.
The Matrix.
So it's like he became one with the Force, pretty much.
There you go.
So I guess that explains why he's a floating head now, and not a real person. But
he's Obi-Wan.
Yeah, basically. So I guess the fact that they're millions of years old, maybe that might explain the whole dinosaur connection to it. That may be how they try to work that in.
And those new badges or what are they called? I'm sorry, I don't.
The power coins.
Yeah, the power coins. They kind of look like petrified amber, pretty from Jurassic Park or something like that. So that's also another interesting significance as far as like it being prehistoric. That's pretty cool that they did that.
Do you think they'll do the whole like it's morphing time thing?
I'm sure someone will say it at one point.
Well, the guy said it in the trailer. He said it in the trailer, but I'm talking about like you think they'll do like an actual like, put your hands out or something similar and like, and you say you're dinosaur.
If I know how reboots work, it'll be like the last scene of the movie.
Maybe like one and done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say this about the trailer. They've already done more in these trailers to explain what exactly their powers are than in over 20 years of this show. I still have no idea like what their powers actually are.
We don't need plot development. We want to watch Power Rangers kick buddies or whatever.
Suits and flying robots.
Well, you know what's cool? What's cool about this? Like I said, it's kind of like Chronicle in the fact that it affects them completely, and not just when they have a suit on. You know, like as opposed to this show, it's like if they didn't have the suit on, they were just normal people that could get hurt easily. And as opposed to this one, it's like no, they always have the power. They can jump far.
But then I think like, well, what the hell do they need the suits for then?
That's true.
Well, the suits is probably more of an
because they look cool.
Right? Like, I mean, I don't know, like that.
I would, if I were a superhero, I'd want to have something like that. That'd be pretty.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the armor and.
I'm thinking the suit is just it amplifies what their powers are. It's almost like it helps them tap into the source a little bit more. Maybe
they'll go over that some more in the movie too. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
Like or like it's like a protective instead of like it's like a protective armor, just protect them.
Or just like tactical, armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they'll have weapons and stuff. So.
Yeah, I'd buy that. It's almost like ninjas, right? I mean, like if they're so good martial arts, why do they need the suit and the swords? It's the same thing, right?
Right. Or it's like, are they already good at martial arts before they become Power Rangers, or does that like cause that to happen? That's, I guess we'll find that out. But and up next we have Elizabeth Banks as the main villain, Rita Repulsa. She is 65 million years old, and she was a former Green Ranger who went rogue. That I think is that
so that's fact.
She's a former Green Ranger that went rogue.
That's what they're saying in the description here, which I think is already more interesting than like the original Moon Witch incarnation of that character.
And how old is Zordon again?
They just say he lived millions of years ago, and they said Rita is, which I think just a terrible name, Rita Repulsa, but I digress.
I was wondering if they were just going to call her Rita, but apparently they're calling her Rita Repulsa.
Yeah. Well, that's what she was called in the show too, but like.
So you think this is like a relationship issue?
Like between her and Zordon, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, like, I mean, obviously we're speculating here, but what do you think about that? Do you think they would go that route?
Like if there was a love story before that, I don't know. That's interesting.
I feel like that sounds like fan fiction, though.
Like they've been shipped.
Yeah. Shipping Rita and Zordon.
Zorita?
What if,
would that be their couple name? I don't know.
What if Rita, they were in a relationship, and I don't know, let's just say Zordon cheated on her. and
that's why she went evil. That was it?
And
that
Rita
was what sent her over the edge?
Rita,
with whoever the Pink Ranger was.
Rita is now the cause of why Zordon is stuck as a floating head.
Maybe she was just pissed that he cheated on her.
She was ticked, and now he's ticked, and he's like, "Well, I'm just gonna make up a team to go after you."
He's like, "Now you can't cheat on me when you're just a floating head. Can't go nowhere."
And now the Rangers at the end, they'll find this out and they'll turn on Zordon because he's
like, dude,
like really, dude, we're children and you recruited us just because your ex is pissed at you. Like, we're done. Yes. No, we're out. We're out. Yes. We're not working for you anymore.
Find some new teenagers. Oh wait, they do that anyway.
Yeah.
We're Team Ritas now, so bye. Good luck.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
So, yeah, peace. So, I mean, this is what it says under the description. It says she forms the monster Goldar while attempting to steal the Zeo crystal, which is actually something from like one of the later seasons, because that was the whole thing. Power Rangers Zeo, that was like the 4th season, and so
was that a source of power? I thought that was the source of their power.
I guess so. They're like trying to tie into that, sort of reference some of the later seasons as well, which is interesting.
Okay.
And then they're trying, and she says she's trying to steal the Zeo crystal for Lord Zed, who was the 2nd season villain, and so I guess they're bringing him into this as well.
I would, you know what, just listening to that, I'm thinking they're setting up for like the sequels, and like you're not going to see Lord Zed.
Oh, that's
just probably not, or it'll be in an after credits scene or something like that.
They're gonna set up for the whole thing with Tommy, the Green Ranger. Or
maybe he'll be in the after credits or something. I don't know.
Probably. I guarantee you they're setting up for that for the next movie.
Yeah, that's true. Because if she's the old Green Ranger, she still has the green power coin, which I assume she does. I assume that's what that glowing green thing in her staff is at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And in the original show, the whole deal was like he was like mind controlled to be hers, but then he turned good. and that's how that whole thing came together.
Or what if they fight him? Well, yeah, I guess they would have to. What if like she is I could just picture it like she's like talking in this cell or whatever, and to this shadowy figure, and then at the last possible second we see that it's Tommy and his eyes glow green or something like. I don't know. Yeah. It's just I've seen a lot of Marvel's movies. I know how they do these things.
Yeah, no, that was his whole deal in the original show, where he was just a regular kid. He got mind controlled, but once they broke the spell, then he became a good guy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's what they're doing. That's kind of what to expect. Apparently, there will be cameos by two of the original cast members.
Oh, cool. Okay, let's take a guess on who. Let's take a guess on who. Just speculate. Let's do it.
I already know because I'm seeing this on Wikipedia, but.
Oh, well, shoot. Well,
you
Debbie
guys
Downer,
guess,
Debbie Downer over there.
Hey. Well, that's why I'm the host of this show, John.
I probably wouldn't even, honestly, not that I don't care, but, I probably wouldn't even recognize the people if I saw them in the movie.
Okay, my top two guesses, and then I have a third one as, my backup. Okay. My top two, which is, obviously, three is, half the people here. But, top two, I'm going to say Tommy and, Green Ranger, White Ranger guy, and then Kimberly. I'm going to say Kimberly.
You are correct on both counts. Yes.
What?
Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson.
Are you serious?
Apparently they will be cameo as Angel Grove citizens. So it will probably just be a quick thing.
I thought they would make somebody a teacher or something.
That makes a lot of sense because, Jason David Frank, he's been out promoting the movie, so I'm thinking okay, he has to have something to do with this.
If I'm not mistaken, I know I don't know if it was him or not, but there's this internet show called Superpower Beatdown where they had one of the actors. They had Jason David Frank play the Green Ranger, so yeah, he is the Green Ranger from what I've heard. So I mean,
he played both Green and White, and he was on Superpower Beatdown. He had both actually. He has one scene where he's the Green Ranger and one scene as the White Ranger. Yeah, go watch the White Ranger one. He fights Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
See, I knew he fought somebody from Mortal Kombat, but I couldn't remember who it was. But I gotta watch that one.
Yeah, and in the Green Ranger one, he fights Ryu from Street Fighter.
Nice.
Both really good. I mean, look, the dude's still in great shape. He's a legitimate MMA fighter.
Yeah.
So he's
definitely too old for to be fully involved in the movie.
I mean, just he's one of those guys he works the convention circuit really hard. That's his main thing. So it's he was just knowing this dude. Knowing his personality in real life, it's he was just trying his best to get in there somehow, and they were probably all right, dude, we'll get you a cameo because you won't stop visiting the set anyway.
Somebody get him out of here.
It's all right, shut up, you're in the movie.
Somebody stole the green power coin. Where'd it go?
Damn it. JDF. All right, give him a cameo or something. Then he'll leave.
All right.
Well, what? Just I kind of knew that about Jason David Frank, but I literally took a complete guess on Kimberly, just because maybe I think I saw a video where she put on her pink suit as she was older or something like that. That's the only reason why I guessed her. So that was a. But I'm kind of.
Does she do a lot of conventions as well?
I mean, not as much because she actually has had a relatively successful career. She's actually gone on and done stuff. She was on that show Felicity in the 90s later on and had a pretty good run with that. And she's on this TV show called Flashpoint now. It's not hugely successful, but she's still
she's working. She's working.
Yeah, she's working.
Still working pretty steadily and has had a few things over the years. So she's probably the most successful actor out of the original bunch. But so I'm surprised they brought her back for the cameo or that she came back. Cool. But
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, the fact that she has work, it's probably a big part of her life. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, she's
involved in it.
I mean, it was one of those things where it's like in recent years, she's like, yeah, I did that. You know, it was a good first job, and that was that. You know, but yeah, so that's the whole rundown on the Power Rangers. Again, the trailers look good. Like, I think,
yeah.
You know, it's going to be interesting to see, especially for me, just because, I mean, my whole thing is like, what is this movie even going to be? But, I mean, now we're going to find out. I'm looking down at sort of the buzz on it. I think it's like 43% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I didn't expect this movie to win any Oscars or anything like that, so obviously I'm not going to...
So, I think like IGN gave it a 7 out of 10, which isn't bad.
No, it's not bad.
You know, I mean, you know, it's one of those things. As a Power Rangers movie goes, comparing it to like the other, like the original show and the two movies that came out in the 90s, I'm sure it's going to be better than that.
I would hope so.
Well,
I mean,
you know,
I would hope
that's not a high bar.
Yeah, no. Again, my expectations for this really, really low. Like the bar is not high.
No.
So I'm sure I'm gonna go in and I'm sure there are gonna be things about this movie I enjoy. I mean,
I'm gonna be taking my 12-year-old brother and we're gonna have a blast. So
yeah. So I mean, I'm sure it'll work on that level. I mean, is it gonna be on par with the Avengers and stuff like that? I doubt it.
It's highly doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know,
be a fun time.
I'm definitely curious what it's gonna be.
I was gonna say, you know me, I said that you know, I wasn't one to really be excited about a Power Rangers movie coming out. The trailers have done their job and got me like at least kind of looking their way, and you know, I'm gonna wait until I hear a little bit more from people. Now the good news is that a reviewer that I listened to, he didn't want it either, but he said like he actually had fun with the movie. So that's
what reviewer was
cool.
it?
It was John Campia, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy Johns is another one I watch, and he liked it too.
He liked it too. Yeah.
Okay.
He's another one that I watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I think people's expectations aren't super high coming into it, so I think if you look at it that way, I'm sure it'll be, you know, it'll be better than we think it's going to be.
For sure. Oh, for
sure.
Sure.
Okay. See, look. This was the last Power Rangers movie. Power Rangers Turbo.
Oh yeah.
Remember I told you it made something ridiculous low, $9.6 million.
Yeah, that's not good.
How much? What was their budget initially?
I'd have to look, but the previous movie from that made $66 million.
Oh, okay.
So you go from $66 million to $9 million. You know they lost a ton of money.
Something bad happened.
Well, the funny thing is about like, you know, the budget on those two movies was significantly different because like Fox ended up producing the first one, so they were able to put some money into it. But the second one was like almost completely done by Saban, so it was very much low budget.
Okay, so the Turbo
budget, it still made it into the theaters weirdly enough, but it was almost like a made-for-TV movie basically.
Okay, so the Turbo budget was $8 million, which means they lost a lot of money because even though it made $9 million.
Because of marketing as well.
That's right, because you got marketing, which costs easily probably as much as what the budget was, probably close to it, and then you have a third of the profits go to the theaters, and that's not reported in the budget.
Right.
So
okay. So they did end up losing money on that.
Oh, they lost a ton of money.
Jeez. No wonder we haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, like the bar is not super high, so I'm sure it'll be better than that.
Well, I mean the commercials themselves have been better than some things that have been made by Power Rangers. So I mean.
Well, listen, I said that, like, you know, they need to scrap a lot, like, a ton of the stuff that they did. They just need to scrap it. And I think they've done a good job of, like, really updating, like how a Power Rangers movie would be now instead of, like, back then. You know, like, they went the Chronicle route, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like so. I think it'll be it's updated to fit this generation a lot better.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, I do think there are elements of it, throughout all the different incarnations of it through the TV show and all that. I think there is potential for a good story to be told there. I mean, if you kind of like go the Green Lantern route with it, that's kind of how I would do it. But
Right.
I mean, who knows? This it may end up surprising us. We'll have to see. But for now, I think we're just going to cut it off and stay tuned because I think we are going to be back with the spoiler review of it. So stick around, and we'll be right back. Bye. And we're back. It's been a little while since we first recorded that preview segment. As we record this right now, it is Wednesday, April 12th. Now I'm trying to think. I believe I went the second weekend it was out, and I know John has decided not to go see it in the theaters. I think from the beginning, and I was talking with him about this. I just think the interest wasn't really quite there on his part to go see it. I think he was more interested in my reaction to it because he and I talk about it quite a bit. But he decided to pass on seeing it in the theaters. So hopefully by the time he hears this, he's seen it already. Maybe by the time he listens to it, it might be available, as a rental. But as of right now, it is still in the theaters. And Seamus is here with me. And Seamus, you saw it recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw it on Monday, I believe. I went and took my little brother, and we saw it on Monday.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's been out for a few weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at some of the info. So far, it's grossed about 117 million worldwide, which is pretty respectable.
Yeah, like how much was their production budget and everything? Does it say?
Let's see. I'm going here. I'm trying to look into it now.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh yeah, the production budget was about 100 million.
Okay, so they've cleared.
They definitely broke even, and I mean it's not like a huge smash success, but it's definitely respectable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For Lionsgate. And interesting thing is they haven't released it in Japan or China yet.
Really?
Like you would think with the Super Sentai connection and the connection with the Toei company that it would have been out like first run in Japan.
Wow.
But yeah, I think they're not planning on releasing it there in Japan until July.
Wow.
So and again, with China, they have different policies about how many Western movies that they show. So, but word is that they will show Power Rangers. So those are two huge markets. I think when it's all said and done, those markets are definitely going to help bring in some more cash to it.
Yeah, it's like with the Transformers franchise. China, the Chinese audience and everything kind of pretty much is what sets it over the top as far as like how the Transformers movies make money and everything like that.
Yeah, well they love giant robots, and they certainly had plenty of giant robots in this movie as well.
They did.
Yeah, they love it. But overall, I gotta say, I enjoyed it. We went into this with relatively low expectations.
Yeah, I'll say that much.
I know I did. I was, I had a feeling I knew it was going to be better than the original show. I knew it was going to be more serious than the original show and the original movies. But, I think to me it did what I think it was supposed to do and made me actually care about the characters.
I agree. There were things I liked about it. We'll get into it a little bit more, but I had a couple issues with the movie, and the biggest issue I had was I don't want to sound like too pretentious when I say this, but the biggest issue I had was the tonal consistency of the movie.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of my biggest issue. I was like, because if you're gonna have your dark and gritty Power Rangers movie, stay dark and gritty throughout. And if you're gonna have kind of the basically a Power Rangers episode,
with a higher budget, do that. But you can't. They tried to do both, and it was really noticeable for me. Like,
I think they were definitely trying to look at what Marvel has done and tried to mix the humor in with the heart and with the seriousness of it.
Right.
And I think a lot of times they did pretty well with it. There were a few times where, and again, I think a lot of this has to do with fan service and how some of the hardcore fans would have been pissed if they hadn't done it.
Right.
But some of the fan servicey things, I think they did kind of worked against it a little bit.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people, had enjoyed that who went and saw it. But let's go through the plot. And then we'll get into the specifics. I like how they opened it with in the sort of the Mesozoic or Jurassic era, whatever it was, when but it basically looked like almost like they were the Power Rangers of that era, which Zordon was the Red Ranger. We knew that going into it.
Right.
They it immediately opens on just sort of an explanation of what they were. In fact, no, I don't think they were even explaining what they're doing. They were just going immediately into a scene where they're almost all dead except for Zordon, and it's Rita Repulsa, who is the Green Ranger. Something happened. They were on a mission. She flipped on them and immediately turned on him and killed a lot of them except for Zordon.
Right.
Which I thought was a really strong beat to open on. I was like,
oh yeah, that was really cool way for it to start out. And like, I'll say this about the start of the movie: it was a solid start. Like, it made it like after seeing the start of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and everything like that, seeing the start of this movie and seeing how they did it made a lot of sense. I felt like it was a really good way for. It wasn't just some odd coincidence that these 5 kids and everything like that. It made from a storytelling perspective, it kind of made sense. It was almost like, I've heard the start of this movie compared to the movie Chronicle meets The Breakfast Club and everything like that, and I feel like that was a good way for it to start out.
Gotcha. I would agree with that. I haven't seen Chronicle myself, but I know that there was a connection because.
Dude.
I know that there's a connection because originally Max Landis was hired to write the first draft of the script, but they passed on the script he wrote.
Love me some Max Landis, man.
He's an interesting dude for one thing.
For sure.
Would have been interesting to hear what his script would have been for this, but
knowing him, he's probably got it on his website. He's probably got the full script on his website, if I know him.
Maybe. But yeah, it really opened into that, and I think that whole sequence, it did leave a few more questions than it did answers, which I guess that was by design. But that was just like the one thing in the back of my mind, because again, they didn't have a lot of time to spend on it. Like, okay,
right.
Why were the Power Rangers there? What were they doing? What happened to make Rita go evil?
Yeah, that's a very good point. There was a lot. There wasn't a lot of backstory there, but
yeah, there was a lot. Like I said, there were a lot of questions that it left, which, as the movie went on, it didn't really fully answer.
Mm-hmm.
Which, maybe they're trying to plant the seed for more sequels, or maybe they could explore stuff like that.
Right.
They were trying to explain what the Zeo crystal was. Apparently that was one of the sources of their powers. That's sort of like the big MacGuffin of this whole thing. And apparently they were tasked with protecting life on Earth, which was ironic because, I saw that scene, it almost seemed like Zordon was trying to bring upon the destruction of the dinosaurs, or they just happened to be there as that was going on. Like it was
Zordon or Rita?
Zordon was, because I remember, Rita was about to kill him, and Zordon was on the ground, and he was like, Alpha, bring down like a meteor or something, and sort of activate like a self-destruct thing, because he knew that.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah, all of it happened really fast, and again, it's been a little while since we've actually seen it, so I'm trying to recall. But Zordon knew that he was about to be killed, and he took precautions to put his his artificial intelligence, sort of upload his consciousness to the ship. that, you know, the shit that they came on that Alpha was driving, and almost felt like they were trying to like call down a meteor so that would take Rita out, because I guess that was the only way they could stop her from
Right.
getting the Zeo crystal, which again I'm not sure. And again, one of my big complaints about this movie is that they didn't really like they could have developed Rita a little bit more as a villain.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's like, okay, well, what was it that made her go evil? Why? What was the big deal about the Zeo crystal? Like, what is she going to do with it? Like, why does she want to do what she wants to do?
Right. But I will say this, as it is, they kind of did develop her a little bit more than they did. I don't know too much about the show, but I feel like they developed her motivation a little bit more in the movie.
Oh yeah, no,
than they did in the show.
I will say this about Elizabeth Banks. She really goes all in.
She's committed. That was I like Elizabeth Banks. She's a solid actress. I like watching her. Like, especially this role reminded me a little bit of an evil what's her name? Effie Trinket from
Hunger Games. Yeah.
Hunger Games. Yeah. That was I like basically anything she's in, she's enjoyable to watch. And I really like how much she committed to this role.
I mean, she definitely had an interesting arc in this movie where when she got like revived, which it didn't. I guess she was able to survive the meteor shower, and then millions of years later, they Jason's dad fished her out at the bottom of the sea. That was a little weird, but like once she was there, she was just like straight up menacing, just killing people and like. But as the movie went on, she got a little bit campier, and I think it got a little bit off the rails. But certainly when she first like awoke and was sort of in that like feral state and was like killing people, that was like.
She's like a horror movie villain. Yeah.
It was like something out of The Ring or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, a lot of this movie, again, a lot of the biggest problems with this movie is just the sharp tonal shift. Like, it had really good stuff. Like, I really liked it. But like you're saying with Rita, like, I really like how they started her out, how she was a genuinely scary villain, but then there was that point in the movie, and I could probably point to exactly where it was, where she just turned into a Power Rangers villain. And so, I mean, again, it's, you know, it's not that big a deal, but like,
I think you and I are thinking of the same thing, and we're definitely going to get into that when that comes, because it's glaringly obvious.
Yeah.
But cutting into the present day, we go to the high school where we meet Jason. Jason is sort of becomes like the heart of the movie. Him being the Red Ranger, obviously he's the leader of the team, but you get the idea that like he wasn't really a bad kid. He had just, was just kind of acting stupid and got busted and got into an accident. Mm-hmm. Which I was glad that they did it that way, because if he was like a complete delinquent, it would have been harder to relate to him, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't really have made as much sense for him to be the leader of the Power Rangers in that way.
Yeah, that would have been a bit of just a little bit too far of a leap,
right?
Character-wise, he was doing, what I'm sure a lot of kids do at that age.
Oh yeah.
Pulling pranks, and especially if they're sort of the jockey type, that they might do something with the other team's, football team or something. And
oh yeah, that's in every like high school show ever. That particular scene. It's just the difference is he got caught. Like.
Which by the way, you immediately knew that this wasn't for kids because it opened on almost like a bestiality joke.
Oh my gosh, I know.
I was like, wow.
My 11-year-old brother was sitting there next to me, and he's like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Never mind. We're just gonna pretend like that didn't happen." And I'm like, "Dude, this is a Power Rangers movie."
Like, I was like, wow, they're going off with him. I'm not even going to say it. We're going to try and keep this clean for the older folks, for the younger folks who were listening. But it was like
went there.
I was just like, wow, it's bold.
I was questioning why they came down so hard on him on the punishment. That might have had something to do with it.
Like there might have been like a sex crime going on there with like his buddy. or
exactly.
Whoever his accomplice was, we never see that character again.
He's probably in juvie right now. Like,
hopefully getting some counseling, because he's probably traumatized once he realized
what
that,
he did.
Well, I'm just gonna say you can't milk a deer or a steer. I mean,
can't milk a bull.
Yeah, a bull. That was it. So make of that what you will, kids.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so they go to that. He gets detention. He gets the ankle bracelet. He gets the Saturday detention, and that's where he meets Billy and Kimberly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Billy, I guess, and now Billy was a great character. R.J. Seiler.
I liked Billy a lot.
Yeah, he was just. I mean, that kid was just so charming in his portrayal of the character. Like you immediately wanted to be friends with that guy. Like, yeah, he was very very much down to earth. They had explained that he was kind of on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, which was an interesting choice, because I feel like as the movie went on, he got a little bit less and less. Maybe getting the powers kind of like helped even him out a little bit, and I don't want to sound insensitive or ignorant
I'll say
to
this
anyone.
much: I've met people on the spectrum, on the Asperger's spectrum. A lot of them are like that. They have amazing personalities. A lot of people are like that. Like, what they're. It's just like once you get to know them, they have these amazing personalities that come out, and that's why I really enjoyed seeing that in Billy. I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate right there. I mean, that's why I liked Billy. Was probably my favorite character in this movie. Like,
yeah, no,
and it was because of that.
Yeah, he was definitely. I mean, I guess if Jason was like the heart of it, he was the soul of it. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was that. Like I think he was really like sort of the breakout character of the five.
For sure.
There. Yeah. Speaking of the spec, like I'm not trying to sound insensitive to what.
No.
Because
I get it.
I myself, when I was a kid, I was like sort of tested for that sort of thing. So I don't think I was ever diagnosed though. But that's neither here nor there. But,
actually, I was the same with me too. Like, say my parents, I never was officially diagnosed or anything like that. But my parents told me that they had suspicions early on that I might have been. They never got me diagnosed though.
Right,
so
and this was years ago, obviously.
Exactly.
When you know, but again, neither here nor there.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly why he was in detention. I think he like accidentally brought like an explosive to school or something.
He blew up a lunchbox.
Yeah.
That's what
Billy gets into like a lot of, I guess what they explain is that his dad either is or was a geologist.
Uh-huh.
And did they explain, did his dad die was his dad like a scientist who died or something, or I don't remember if his father was alive in the movie.
I'll have to rewatch the movie just to see exactly how he died. I don't know if they went over it exactly, but no, I don't think they did. I can't remember if they did or not, because there's nothing sticking out in my mind as to why he's, why Billy is still, going through the quarry and everything like that. So
yeah, like I guess he's like really big into geology, and I guess he was looking into something, or maybe he had like found something about, he had like got a beat on, that there may have been some UFO activity, or there's some weird stuff in the quarry, which he's kind of the one who's responsible for finding the power coins and all that. And then while we're doing that, we meet Kimberly, which Kimberly was interesting. I think they had a strong idea about what her character arc was going to be. But as the movie went on, I feel like it got kind of off track.
Yeah, it got a little muddy. Like
it did. There was a scene later on in the movie. I know we're skipping ahead, where it's you could tell earlier on that she was kind of being bullied or being harassed by the other cheerleaders, and she was kind of rebelling against that and cut her hair and just kind of went full punk rock. And early on, I was wondering what it was. Okay, did she like hook up with like another girl's boyfriend or whatever it was,
right?
Or whatever it could have been, but. They tried to explain that, in that scene where she was in Jason's bedroom, she was explaining that I guess she had gotten some nude pictures of this other girl and her boyfriend, and had spread that around.
It was weird. Like, I was like, how does that get you in? It was very vague.
I guess got her in detention, but she felt bad about it, and she was trying to she was like admitting, she's like, look, I wasn't a good person, but I'm trying to change, and
Right.
which I get that what they were trying to do, but I almost feel like a more effective storyline would be like, she's a cheerleader, she is the victim of that sort of thing.
Right. That would have worked a
And
little better.
I guess she gets into detention because she like punches out like the girl's boyfriend or whatever, or whoever it was. But because I think that was the original deal, where it's like she felt guilty, but then she punched the boyfriend out anyway.
Yeah.
It was a weird, kind of confluence of events, how she got to where she was. And I feel like
it wasn't exactly clear, yeah.
it would have made more sense if like she was the victim and then she was being like ostracized because of that, and she lashed out, and that's why she got in trouble.
Exactly.
That would have made her a little bit more of a sympathetic character, I think.
Mm-hmm. That would have worked a little better too. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, it looked like it got a little confusing in the writer's room for that one. You know what I mean?
And also they kind of in the trailer they had like a scene where it's like implied, it like shows like Jason and Kimberly kissing, but they kind of like they cut that out of the final cut of the movie. So I guess they were trying to imply that there maybe was a relationship there, but I guess maybe they cut that out of the movie, maybe due to time or whatever. But I mean, I don't know.
I was okay with that. I didn't really need to see any kind of like romantic relationship in my Power Rangers movie.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, I guess they had enough to do, but
yeah, exactly.
So, but like there were little things like in the plot where it's like I felt like they could have explained it a little bit more, like they had time to do it, but they just chose not to.
Exactly. They were just like, let's get this moving. I will say this. I mean, as much as they didn't explain, I mean, I don't know. As much as they did not explain, I felt like it still took a while to get to where we were, Power Ranging. Like,
yeah, where they were in the suits.
Yeah,
they definitely waited till like the third act to have any sort of like, and the third act was where I felt like the movie suffered a little bit. It just felt very rushed. The first two acts were fantastic, though.
Oh yeah,
all the character stuff, and when they met Trini and Zach, which I'm still trying to remember what the hell was Trini doing at the rock quarry in the first place. She was just like doing some yoga. And
she
Zach
was just like there.
Yeah, and I guess I think her and Zach kind of felt a little bit underwritten to me.
Yeah, like maybe. Yeah,
like I guess Zach's whole deal was that like his mom was sick and he dropped out of school to take care of her, but he was kind of a hobo. Like he was like I didn't figure out what was going on with Zach. And
yeah, I thought he was like living in that train car or whatever that he was in, but apparently he lives with his mom and stuff.
Yeah,
and that was weird. I mean,
yeah, it's just it felt a little strange. And Trini, I guess she was like the new girl in town, and obviously they suggested that she was either, like bisexual or questioning, wasn't really sure what was going on. She had, she was definitely sexually ambiguous, I guess.
There was a lot of.
They didn't really spend a lot of time focusing on it though, which was fine.
No,
I mean,
the thing is, it was a lot of what's the word? Not dialogue, but the
exposition.
Yeah, that's the word. There was a lot of just wordy exposition, like especially around that campfire and everything like that. And I felt like that was where those two characters kind of got a little established.
Yeah, I felt like they kind of got fleshed out a little bit more. Like
yeah.
Yeah, no, I still feel like those two kind of suffered a little bit, which
for sure.
Of course you're going to get in an ensemble cast. More certain characters are going to get more attention than others.
Yeah.
I definitely felt Jason was very likable as the leader. I felt like him standing up to the bullies when they were picking on Billy, which I thought was a really cool moment.
Yeah, that was awesome. I liked that one a lot. Honestly, a lot of the high school stuff I really liked. Like it worked for me. Like as far as like the characters themselves.
I mean, I'm glad that the bullies weren't Bulk and Skull. I know a lot of the hardcore fans were like hoping that they would show up, but I mean, they didn't really need to be there. So.
They kind of did take out some of the ridiculous stuff in the that's in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I kind of appreciated that, especially like with like Bulk and Skull was one of them, and how the high school, the fact that they went to a normal high school. Now, I don't know. Is Angel Grove the name of the high school or the name of the town that they live in Power Rangers?
In the show, that was the name of where they lived.
Okay.
And I think it was implied that it was a bigger city, but in this one, it was more of like just small town, middle America, which I liked better.
Yeah.
I thought that made more sense.
I will say this much: the fact that it was in the rock quarry, and that the fact that where they found, I know I'm jumping, but the fact that where they found the power coins was a rock quarry, and it was like that desert look. I really appreciate that. That's where they had their first fight as Power Rangers. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but like it kind of really hailed back to the original Power Rangers, where every single fight seemed like it was in the desert and everything. So that was
right, which I was totally fine with. I mean.
Yeah.
Because that would make more sense to have like giant robot fights away from like a downtown cityscape.
For sure.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
They didn't knock down buildings like they were nothing. Yeah,
yeah, there were a few. I mean, there was definitely some damage done in like the center of the town and all that, but it wasn't like egregious,
right?
Know? So, which that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the stuff with Alpha and discovering the ship, sort of the command center, which was really cool. There was definitely, like I said, definitely a lot more questions than answers. Like, I thought the way they went in was interesting with the water.
That was pretty interesting. I liked that. It
looked cool. I mean, it didn't really make a lot of sense why it would be there, but
physically, no. Yeah, it's like why is there's like this gravity bubble or something like that?
I was waiting for one of them to say, "It's like, hey, is there a way we could go in without getting all our clothes wet and like destroying our cell phones? Is there like a back door into this place? Like, come on."
We have to do this every time,
right? But yeah, the effect with Zordon in the wall, I thought it made sense.
Oh yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston did a good job. Like, he was solid as and Bill Hader wasn't. Bill Hader was pretty tolerable as Alpha. Like, he didn't get annoying or anything.
Which is saying something for Alpha, yeah.
He did bust out a little bit of the I, but
I could not believe they did. I was like, that's of all the things in Power Rangers that I thought they would not do, they did that. I was like, wow, okay, well.
But you know what? I mean, honestly, he did it in a way where it didn't feel too forced. It didn't feel. It was just like part of his personality, and it wasn't like over the top. So I was fine with it.
He did it twice, I think, if I remember right.
I like that they spent a lot of time, like, in terms of like training these kids how to be Power Rangers.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty well done, because they provided a lot more explanation about what these kids' powers were, what they had to do to get them ready, and it was kind of cool to go on that journey with them.
And that little bit of conflict, like how they were supposed to figure out how to do their suits and everything like that. I felt like that was good.
Yeah, where it's like they kind of had to earn it, the morphine.
They had to figure out that, it's not just about them as individuals, it's them as a group. And I thought, you know what, that's good. I like that. It was pretty cool. I wish it had happened sooner, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, all of that was fine. The scene with Rita showing up and then like confronting them and be like, all right, you guys have 11 days, then I'm destroying it. Like, she could have just killed them all there.
Yeah, like right then and there. That was such like typical like TV villain type thing right there. I was like, she's literally just doing the typical villain stuff, and I was like, that's where again that.
Here's my evil plan. Here's what I'm gonna do. You've got 11 days. See you then.
Oh, by the way, I'm gonna kill one of you.
Yeah, she actually killed Billy, which Again, this is one of my pet peeves in some movies where they have someone die and then come back to life.
I
get what they. I mean, I thought it was powerful stuff. I thought they did that about as best as they could have done it.
My thing was, she like dropped him off and then she walked away before she was sure he was dead. He was dead. That's one thing, but apparently he did die, and he died. and they made him die before they were even in the suit, so there was like no tension whatsoever. And I'm like sitting there like, he's gonna come back to life before they get in the Zords and everything like that.
True, so. And then there's always that thing like, okay, how are they gonna get out of this one? Like, how are they gonna explain this? Because yeah. So I mean, but I thought it was interesting how it's like Zordon was trying to figure out a way for him to come back to life, I guess, for himself to get like a new body or something, which made perfect sense because he's like, look, this chick is gonna Rita is gonna destroy all life. He's like, I'm an experienced Power Ranger, like I should be there on the front lines fighting her because I have experience with it, and not these children who kind of found their way into it.
Right, exactly.
And I did like the fact that it is almost like them kind of finding it by mistake. It wasn't necessarily that they were chosen for it. Mm-hmm. But Zordon was like, okay, I've got teenagers. Well, you'll do.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it made more sense than him like actively recruiting children to fight his space war.
Exactly. Just trying to find emotionally unstable or whatever he said.
Yeah.
In the show, but
teenagers with attitudes.
Yeah, exactly.
Overly emotional humans.
No, not teenagers.
Yeah, you saw that one.
Yep. But yeah, that was I felt like that was a good choice. Like the conflict, I felt like the fact that there was some conflict between Zordon and
Jason.
and Jason and everything. That was really interesting.
Where he actually called him out for us. He's like, "You're just using us."
Yeah. It's like, you're just using us so you can get back to life and everything. So that was really cool. I like that. I mean, if you're gonna have a come back to life part, I guess that's one way that's a solid way to do it. That's probably
I mean they kind of elaborated on what the morphing grid was as far as being like the source of their power.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was fine. They kind of explained it enough where it makes sense.
I bought it. I mean, for it being a power, I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Get them in the suits. Let's do this.
Yeah. So, and again, I think once we get to the third act, when they morph and they all come together as a team, where it's like even you had one scene in there where like Jason and Zach started like throwing hands with each other. They started fighting.
Yeah.
Because Zach was kind of a dick.
Yeah, he kind of was.
Like he would go around joyriding in like the Zord and all that, which was nuts.
He was like the Raphael of the group.
He was very much the loose cannon.
Right.
Like adrenaline junkie, which was interesting because the Zach on the show was more of just like a charismatic, kind of a fun guy to be around. He liked to dance and all this other stuff. This version of Zach was much more like, this guy's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So again, they definitely had their own takes on the characters. Some of which were callbacks to the originals, but others were different. So, but it was enough where it worked. It was fine. I mean, they were the heart of the movie, and that's really where the connection was, and it made me want to figure out what happens to these characters. Mm-hmm. And in that sense, I feel like this movie really succeeded.
Right, exactly. Like as far as the character development of the Power Rangers themselves, I felt like they did a good job. I really do. Like I really enjoyed watching these kids and enjoyed seeing them like, learn their powers. So as far as like a good origin story, it was good. But like again, I don't know. Once it gets to the third act of the movie, it was both my favorite and my least favorite part. Like,
yeah, I mean, there were parts where it started to fall apart. Like, mm-hmm. I mean, I'm gonna say it because everyone's talking about it, the Krispy Kreme deal.
Oh my gosh, I know.
I mean, look, I have nothing against product placement in a movie.
Not at all.
I mean, I understand that that's partially how these big budget movies get made. I get it. I have no problem with it, but they did it in like the most ham-fisted way.
Krispy Kreme was like the source of all life in this movie.
It made it a crucial plot point.
Ugh.
To the point where it's like, I guess the Zeo Crystal, what Rita was looking for, that was buried underneath the Krispy Kreme specifically.
Yep.
They mentioned it several times. I think they did have that that line where Krispy Kreme is the source of life.
It's something like that. Dude.
Which, as funny as that was, it did kind of take me out of the seriousness of the movie, especially when Rita straight up walked into a Krispy Kreme and started eating a donut.
Like a straight up commercial for it. It was the length of a Krispy Kreme ad. I was just sitting there like, this is ridiculous.
I mean, like, stuff like that, like, they could have easily cut out in favor of, like, more character developing stuff and more explanations. But, I mean, that was really where it kind of fell apart for me.
And it wouldn't have been so bad if they didn't keep saying Krispy Kreme. Like, right. I feel like they had a quota of how many times in their contract with Krispy Kreme, they had a quota of how many times they were supposed to say it. Like, it was ridiculous.
I mean, they could have like mentioned it once in passing. It's like, oh, that's the Krispy Kreme on Elm Street and Maple or whatever.
That would have, exactly.
That would have been fine.
That would have been realistic, even.
Or just have the sign in the background as they're fighting. Whatever. So Rita ends up forming Goldar out of, which I guess Goldar was around during the dinosaur period, but he was destroyed in the meteor thing, so she was trying to reform him.
Right.
Which, obviously, this version of Goldar was much different than the Goldar in the original show.
Mm-hmm.
This was more of like almost a generic monster, like just a creature, a thing she was creating with no real mind of its own.
Right. It was just kind of basically a giant putty, essentially.
Yeah, more or less. Which the putties were interesting. Now they were rock monsters and stuff like that, and
like rock golems.
Yeah, they were definitely much more like intimidating than like your typical like random foot soldier, like Chitauri kind of deal.
I enjoyed the fight scene with like I said before, I enjoyed the fight scene between the putties and the Rangers. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. When they had the Zords, when they had the robots, and they were just like going around just like shooting a bunch of them and just taking them out, I'm like, yeah, that's what they should be doing with those things.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know what I expected, but I did not expect them to straight up do the Power Rangers theme song when they introduced the Zords.
Yeah, I think that was like the version of the theme song from the original movie. It wasn't the one from the show.
Yeah.
I think it was like the different remix they had for the movie from '95.
Okay.
Which was interesting. It's like they didn't try to like. I was surprised they didn't try to get like a band out there to like remake it for this movie.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Get Fall Out Boy to remake their theme song or something.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But I mean, it was one of those things where it's like I get what they were going for, but like it wasn't really necessary, in my opinion. It
was part of what like the tonal shift that I was talking about. Like it was like this is when they go from kind of a semi-serious movie about the Power Rangers to it being an episode of Power Rangers, and I'm like, I mean, it's cool. I enjoyed it in the moment. I liked it a lot, but overall, I was like, well, it's kind of a little inconsistent, but it's
right. Like I would have been fine if they. I mean, ideally in a perfect world, for me saying they would have had someone like Avenged Sevenfold or a band like that do like an instrumental, like just shredding guitar version of it. And
exactly.
As a little callback, but
exactly.
I know one of Antonio's main gripes with the movie, and I meant to get him on here, but he really didn't care for the music and the score throughout it. I didn't have an issue with it. I mean, they had a lot of like techno and like sort of modern sounds with it, which I was fine with.
Yeah.
Like I think they had the Kanye West song in there at one point.
I kind of liked that part, honestly. Yeah. Like it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it wasn't like amazing. It wasn't like, Quentin Tarantino level of soundtrack, but it was
I liked
okay.
the suits. I liked the fight scenes they had with them. I liked how they brought in the Zords. I thought that was done relatively well.
I like that the Zords had like a place that they were at. They showed like where the Zords were stored. In the ship and everything.
Yeah,
that was pretty...
yeah, and they kind of explained why they looked like dinosaurs and how it was so all that made sense. So that was fine. Like when they started like attacking, the putties and Which I'm wondering, like, should they have kept the name Putties? They should have just called them Golems or something. I don't know. But...
Yeah, like, again, it's like where they try to, they pick some of the most random stuff to keep in, and it's fine, but it's like, it really doesn't go with the tone of what you're going for. Like, these giant, crazy rock creatures are named Putties. I was like,
but it was cool, just like seeing the Zords come in, and they would have, like, machine guns on the side of them, just taking them out.
That was really
there'd be
fun.
like a bunch of them. That was pretty tight.
Like, the Zord battle was great. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, it was
I thought, like, one of the really cool, like, the stronger moments of it was when they were all, like, about to be pushed into that, like, pit of lava and everything, and they were all just like, hold the line.
Yeah,
hold the
that
line.
was.
I was like, you know what? If we're going down, we're going down together. Like, I thought that was such a cool moment there.
Mm-hmm. That was really. I mean, again, that part was awesome too. Just like them getting overpowered.
We didn't really get to see the Megazord, like, see how it combined necessarily. It was a lot of, like, really tight shots of it.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a missed opportunity, I thought, but I thought it looked fine once it formed and once it started fighting Goldar.
Now, with the flames and, like, the underground thing, isn't that pretty consistent with the show though? Like, I can't remember.
Yeah, because I remember in the show they would have, like, a scene where it's like, the T-Rex, the Tyrannosaurus Zord would almost, like, come out of lava and stuff.
Right.
They would use that in the original, like, Japanese footage as, like, oh, that's where it came from, and so that would, I guess that was kind of a callback to that.
That was pretty neat for. I mean, yeah, I wish they would have shown it, like, getting put together and everything, like, kind of like Voltron style or whatever. But
and they did kind of, like, kind of address the fact that it's like, okay, well, am I taking the leg? Am I taking the arm? Like, how does this work? But I guess it was almost like a psychic link, sort of a hive mind,
right?
Pacific Rim kind of thing. Which
again, that is the perfect way to do a giant robot in Pacific Rim. Like, they figured it out. That's how every giant robot should be done from now on.
Yeah, they cracked the code on that one.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I thought, like, the way they took out Goldar was pretty cool, where it's like they had, like, two swords and just, like, just jammed it into his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was pretty awesome.
It was just a nice physical, like, robot fight.
Yeah, like, it was like, there was definitely some buildings being taken out, but I mean, they just like shanked him right away at the end of it, and it was pretty cool to see. Now, where it fell apart though was how they took Rita out of the equation. They literally bitch slapped her into space. Now, come on, man. Like,
yep.
I realize this is a fantasy. I realize this is science fiction, but, like, that just defies the laws of physics.
That makes no sense whatsoever. It just, if you're gonna hit somebody, if you're gonna hit anything that small, that hard, first of all, they would probably disintegrate before reaching the whatever stratosphere. But I don't know. That part was pretty dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she had both Green Ranger powers and her own magic powers.
Right.
They never quite addressed that, but it was heavily implied that was the deal.
Yeah. Which I'd be interested in seeing what her power, what those powers were. Like, maybe if it's like some kind of weird, like, mutation of the morphin grid or something like that. That'd be cool to see in later renditions of it.
Yeah, like as the movie went on, she did get a little hammier. She'd even throw that line, "Make my monster grow," which I'm like, oh, you don't need to put that in there. He's already growing,
Yeah,
exactly. I get why they did that. It's obviously a callback to the show. It's a big iconic line, but again, not necessary in my opinion.
Yeah, it was funny because, like I said before, you could see the sticking point. You could see, like, exactly when she made the shift from, like, horror, like, kind of cool horror movie villain to to Rita Repulsa, and it was in the jewelry shop pretty much when she finally transitioned and everything. I was like, well, here we go.
Yeah, like the part where she was in, like, Trini's bedroom and everything, like, almost threatening it, like that was a pretty cool scene.
That was awesome.
That was, except, like, why didn't she just, like, slit her throat?
Why didn't she kill her? Like, why?
Why
didn't she kill her or even capture her? Again, it was just like, what in the world?
And And another thing, they did throw like the three rules in there. Is like don't tell anyone who you are, that you're Power Rangers.
Why?
I mean, I understand how, like, you know, common sense would dictate that if they did, that their lives would never be the same and they would never have normal lives or anything like that. But it's like, shouldn't that have been like their choice?
Yeah, like that's up to them.
Right?
I mean,
like, what does Zordon care about that?
Like, yeah, where are these rules written? And first of all, Zordon was like, he's not even a human, so like, why does this even apply to him?
Right.
Type thing. It's just like a lot of that stuff. I mean, they explained a lot of stuff that really didn't need to be explained, and then left a lot of stuff out that I was like, wait a minute, come on.
It's like, you probably should have spent a little more time on that, but, you know. I mean, but, you know, it was what it was. I guess it added that dramatic tension, especially with, like, Trini not telling her parents and all that stuff.
Right.
And, you know, Jason and his dad, and, you know, which I was glad that they got the whole scene of him saving his dad.
That was I did enjoy that one, because, like,
I mean, I wish he would have just, like, lifted up his visor and, like, Dad, it's me, Jason.
That would have been cool. That would have, like, the fact, you know, I mean, this is Jason we're talking about. He's not about, you know, necessarily following the rules. So nobody has to know that he did that.
Right, like he could have done that and had like a cool moment where his dad realizes that he's proud of his son, and that would have been a cool moment. I mean,
that would have been such a teenager thing to do, too.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, why not at that point?
Exactly.
But they did have a little cameo there once Goldar was destroyed.
I noticed that,
which was so obvious because they were like right there in the frame. It was Amy Jo Johnson and Jason David Frank.
Yeah.
Which I always laugh at scenes like that where it's like the townspeople are clapping, you know, that they won and everything. But like they almost could have like learned a little from Man of Steel and just had people like freaking out, like, what the hell is happening in our town right now?
Exactly. That again, that's when it started getting into like typical Power Rangers type stuff.
Almost reminded me of the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh.
Where it's like they're all surrounding Spider, like, yeah, go Spidey, and they're
it's like or the original Spider-Man where like now where they're like, you mess with Spidey, you mess with New York. I was like, in what universe does that actually happen? Like,
right.
If two people are fighting in the middle of the street, you don't have people like taking side. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Superhero movies are weird sometimes.
Sometimes they are. They really are. So they end up they end with like sort of like the montage of like them going back to detention and everything at the end, sort of going back to their normal lives, and they still have like powers and everything both in and out of the suits. I guess they still have Saturday detention forever, so they didn't really clear that up.
Right.
But you know, which, I mean, why would they need to at this point? It doesn't really matter.
No.
And they have like sort of that outro with Zordon narrating, saying he's like, you know, they were recognized, they would be recognized as great as any of Power Rangers who have ever been, which I hope they explore that in sequels, because it's like, it implies that there have been other Power Rangers there, and that maybe there are still other Power Rangers throughout the galaxy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as many problems as I had with this movie, I really hope it does well enough to get a sequel. Like,
I think there is a lot of potential there.
Mm-hmm. I honestly still want to see a sequel to this movie. I'll be in theaters for the sequel to this movie. I enjoyed it.
I said I think they should definitely go the Green Lantern route of it, where it's like there are Power Rangers throughout the universe,
right?
And how it's like sort of, they're basically like space cops.
Exactly. Like, I want to see if there are like if there are Power Rangers from like other planets.
Right.
That'd be cool.
Is there like a bigger council that like, and would they be like, holy crap, Zordon's alive?
Yeah. And like he gets to be part of it, or like he has to talk to the council and everything like that, or maybe they can qualify the Rangers as official Rangers or something. That would be interesting. There's a lot of places that they could go with this, and I'm.
They did, okay. And in the mid-credits scene, which you know, I everyone was excited about the mid-credits scene. It was kind of, you know, it certainly was very predictable. You know that they were going to mention the character of Tommy.
It wasn't any less ham-fisted than anything else that happened in the movie. Honestly, it was just like, oh yeah, well, they're going to have.
They didn't show who was going to be playing Tommy. Tommy was not on screen. It was just like Tommy Oliver is going to be in detention now, and they just showed like a green jacket.
Yep.
Which again, they were kind of guilty about doing this, where it's like they would wear their own colors.
Did they do that? I honestly tried I mean, they did it a little bit, but I felt like they were kind of subtle about it. Like,
it was a little more subtle, but like throughout it seems like, do these kids own clothing in any other colors besides the corresponding Ranger suits?
Like, yeah, they always wore something. Like, Trini always had like a yellow shirt under her jacket.
Yeah.
And like, Jason always had something red at some point. And, and they what's his name? Not the Black Ranger.
Zach.
Zach always had like that black jacket on and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who was the girl that played Trini?
Becky G. Becky Gomez.
All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, the casting was good. I thought the acting was solid.
Yeah.
I liked, I would like to see like future sequels have these characters come of age.
That would be cool, and like see what happens, if they do.
Like if they. I kind of want to see, like, okay, do these characters transition into college life or like adulthood,
Right.
And it's like, how do they evolve over time? Do they like kind of rise in rank as Power Rangers? Like when you start getting into like the White Ranger and Gold Ranger,
right?
Have that be like a ranking system or something. I think that would be cool. Getting back to the end credits, though, they mentioned that Tommy is there and that he's definitely going to be in the next movie. There's no question. It's he's going to be around the next one.
Exactly.
But they kind of end it with like the locker blowing up, which I couldn't understand if that was like something that Tommy did, or I guess they had like Billy doing ADRs like, oh crap, I left that in my locker again, which I thought was just like a sort of like a cheesy like way to end it.
Yeah.
I wasn't really satisfied with that end credit scene.
Yeah, I'm glad they did it at the mid credits and not at the end credits, because if they were the end credits, I'd been like, well, that was kind of a ripoff, but whatever.
Yeah, so that, I don't know. I thought there were a lot of things they could have done that would have been more effective with that, and like show like Lord Zed or one of the other villains or whatever or something.
Exactly. Like I said, this movie, it wasn't a lot expected of this movie, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I really did. Like, all in all, I can say that I went out of the theater, I liked it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was good. I think, like I said, I think like the character stuff was good enough where it kind of carried the movie through.
Mm-hmm.
And it exceeded my expectations.
For sure.
I mean, it was definitely, if I had to give it like
expectations.
If I had to give it a grade, it would be like a solid B.
I'd say about a C+ for me.
Okay, yeah, maybe somewhere like B-, C+.
Yeah,
that area. It's definitely like, it's good. I just want to see more.
It's like I don't want to give it too high a grade because I can see where it needs to improve, and if it improves in those areas, I will be happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely light years of beyond where it came from.
For sure.
I almost liken it to like, it's sort of the Tim Burton Batman to the original series, the original Adam West series.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sort of like the next step in that progression if they want to legitimize it. And,
it's a heck of a solid start.
Yeah. Now, here's my idea for what I want to see in the sequel.
Okay.
Because I think they're obviously going to use the character of Tommy, who started off as the evil Green Ranger, eventually, who was like mind controlled by Rita in the original show. He eventually broke free of that and turned good, obviously, and he became part of the team and was just such a hugely popular character.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to see is almost, I think they were suggesting that the green power coin had some sort of evil tendency to it. Like, I guess maybe have him come across it somehow.
Right.
And maybe have that build upon, like, resentment of people not knowing, like, okay, you're Power Rangers now, what do you do since then? And it's like, he might see like the town being destroyed and maybe not understand what's going on and maybe have resentment toward what the Power Rangers are doing. Then he comes across this power coin and all of a sudden he has power. And it's like, well, it's like, who's watching these guys?
So I like that actually. Like who's.
And then you could bring in, because some of the like replacement characters from the original like some of the original, the first couple seasons, you had a few replacement characters. Rocky, Adam, Aisha, and Kat, who fans of the original show will know those characters. They were eventually replaced the original team. I'm like, have it almost be like a Civil War type of thing, where it's like where it's like Tommy is leading the team of those 4 characters against the original 5.
Right.
And have it be like a thing where it's like, there's kind of some mind control going on, but also like different motivations in terms of like, what does it mean to be a Power Ranger? Like, do they disagree with their methodologies of doing that? And that you could have like sort of an interesting conflict rather than just another, monster situation. Yeah,
just like some actual, like, just spend some time like with the actual Power Rangers instead of just going straight to the Zords.
Yeah.
I like that.
And yeah, I mean, stuff like that I think would be a really cool thing to explore in a sequel, especially as the characters get older, they mature and evolve and become more experienced. There was actually a version, like one of the original series, one of the seasons, the later seasons of the show. It was called Power Rangers SPD.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
I think that was around in like the early 2000s. But I thought that was like a really cool concept of it. Like I went back and looked it up. And, I mean, I didn't go back and watch it or watch the whole thing or anything, but I read about it, and like the whole concept was it was like 20 years in the future, how it was basically like sort of what my idea was for like the Power Rangers being like a Green Lantern like organization.
It makes sense.
SPD stood for Space Patrol Delta.
Okay.
And it's like the team, and it's like the kids in that show were the B Squad.
Okay.
And it was about like them sort of earning their stripes. And like trying to prove themselves to the A Squad, who eventually turned out to be evil, and that ended up becoming a thing. And they had like higher ranking like officers in there. Like there was a Shadow Ranger and a Titanium Ranger. They were like almost like officers, like higher ranking officials and stuff like that. And I think that would be a cool way to bring in, like, if they wanted to bring in the White Ranger powers or the Gold Ranger, have that be like if Jason or Tommy get promoted, or something like, to be like part of like an honor guard or something like that.
Right.
Like those, I think you have things like that where you could use that as potential ideas for a sequel. If they go that way. I don't know what they're going to do, or they haven't even officially announced if they're going to have a sequel yet.
I really hope so. I feel like with a lot of just, it feels, I know it's intellectual property and everything like that, and everybody's making reboots, but I feel like there's a lot of room for like good original storytelling with this particular brand of superhero movie. Like, so
I think there is, and I don't think they necessarily have to copy what Marvel or DC is doing or what anyone else is doing. I think if the characters are strong enough, if the villains are strong enough, which it has always been sort of a problem inherent with the Power Rangers, is I think they haven't had a ton of great villains, in my opinion. They had suggested they might bring in Lord Zed, who was started off on the original show as a pretty strong villain, so I could see how that, that could definitely provide some good antagonism there. But, we'll have to wait and see what happens with this movie. But, again, I'm glad we went and saw it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, it definitely wasn't.
I've definitely
seen worse, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely did what it set out to do. And does that, kind of make you care about Power Rangers?
I actually even as contrived as the whole Billy dying scene was, I actually cared a little bit. Like, I was like, I knew he was coming back, but I was like, oh man, no, we need to bring him back.
Yeah, no, R.J. Seiler, I guess, or Kyler, I don't know how you say his name, but like, he was just a really charming actor.
Yeah, I want to see him in some more stuff. I don't know if he's been in anything else lately, but I kind of would like to see him in some more stuff for sure.
Yeah, and just all the kids in it, I thought, did a really good job. So, yeah, I mean, you can't really ask for much more than that.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, especially from Power Rangers.
Yeah. Like I said, it's definitely a big step forward for them, and yeah, just hopefully it does well enough to get a sequel, and if they do get a sequel, hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully it'll be an improvement. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But
exactly.
Anyways, Seamus, thanks again for joining for joining me and doing this. I wish we could have had John see it because I would have liked to hear his take on it. Hopefully one day he sees it and I can talk to him about this movie.
Hey man, it's always a pleasure doing these with you, man. And it's like I said, it's always fun talking about these movies and stuff.
And I would still love to do commentaries on the original episodes just because they're so insane.
Absolutely. I will say this, if it weren't for this podcast, I probably would not have seen this movie in theaters, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it gave you something you didn't know you wanted.
Exactly.
And that's pretty cool. Seamus, where can they find you on Twitter and on Twitch? I know you have your Twitch channel that you're always doing.
At Celtic Kraut 75, I believe is both of those.
Very cool. Celtic Kraut 75.
Yep.
And you can always find me on Twitter at jackconnor. You can check out my band. I'm a singer in a rock band. www.vertebreaker.net. Look up Vertebreaker on all the social media. We're out there. And definitely go back and listen to all the other episodes. Listen to the one that Seamus and I did about the pilot episode of the show. We mentioned that earlier on.
That was fun.
We definitely try to keep up with movie reviews and just all the other content that we have here on this channel, here on the Phoenix Report. I definitely don't get to do these as much as I would like, but I really enjoy doing them. I really like having my friends on it as well. What did you think of Power Rangers? Leave a comment. Tweet at me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. We would love to hear what you guys thought of it, what you would like us to talk about in the future. If there are any specific requests, maybe particular episodes of the old show you want to hear us dissect, we could do that. Or any particular movies you want us to review, whether they're old or new. We're definitely trying to figure out different ways to bring content to you and to make this show more entertaining. And we just want to keep getting better. And we thank you all for listening. So, Seamus, anything else? Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Nope. Just thanks for listening. Like I said, I'll be keeping an ear out for any kind of old. I like the idea of having some like older movies that we could possibly do reviews of and everything. So yeah. Nope. Just I enjoyed the movie and thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. So anyways, for Seamus, I'm Jack Connor. This has been the Phoenix Report. Thank you for listening, and may the power protect you.